Good morning, everyone. Just going to give a few minutes there for everyone to join us here. All right. Excellent. Okay, well, it is 8 o'clock, so I think we'll get started here. Just really want to thank everyone for joining us today for our webinar, From Data to Decisions: How AI Insights Support Innovation in Financial Services. So in today's webinar, we are going to be discussing what is new and next for data and AI applications within the financial services sector. And as we get started, I just want to do an introduction here to my colleague, Rahul Raina. He is the Vice President, Business Development at Celestial Systems, and he's a seasoned business development executive with 12 plus years experience in software services. He's renowned for identifying opportunities, fostering relationships, and driving revenue growth. He was previously a leader at Antrix, acquired by Nice.com in 2021, and he holds a bachelor's degree in marketing. And I'll just share a little bit about me. I am the CMO of Celestial Systems. My background is about 25 years of experience in both B2B from to business coaching, worked in marketing team at AutoTrader. And my background is really around brand development, market research, data analysis, training and development, and strategic planning and implementation. So without further ado, we will get into the agenda. And so we'll just go through briefly a little bit about Celestial Systems and who we are. We'll talk about the technology trends in financial services, really the impact that data and AI are having within the sector. And we'll talk about the impact and then also sort of the ins and outs of deploying AI solutions within financial services. And then we'll get through to what are those emerging needs, what's next within the industry. And we will have time at the end. We've reserved time to do some Q&A. So for the Q&A, we did have some questions that were sent through ahead of time. And we do want to give you the opportunity as well to provide your own questions if you didn't have a chance to do that in the Q&A section of the Teams chat. And before, I'm just going to hand it over now to Rahul. I am going to actually put a poll into the Teams chat. Just as we get started, I would really like to know what you're most interested in learning about in today's webinar. So I'll go ahead and just launch that in Teams, and I will just hand it over now to Rahul to talk just a little bit more about Celestial and what we do.
Thanks, Nicole. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whoever's dialing in from all over the world. I really appreciate everybody being here. As you know, this is a topic that's very highly discussed in today's world. AI is definitely, I wouldn't say a flavor of the month, but definitely on top of mind for everybody. And it's a phenomenal change that is going to be happening in our world. So that's something we have to be cognizant of. What I do want to do is I want to give people a bit of an overview on Celestial, once for those that don't know us. So Celestial Systems is a software solutions company that's focused on building enterprise cloud applications. We've been around for 20 plus years, excuse me, and we're headquartered in Vancouver, BC, Canada. We have global delivery centers in India, Europe, and we have a large team in the US. As far as our expertise, we generally have three primary business units, I like to say. The first one and our most mature business unit is modern application engineering. This is where there's a lot of web application development, a lot of application modernization projects, etc. Our second business unit is in what we call managed cloud and security. So this is when we started really picking up knowledge about AWS, Azure, GCP, and some of those other hyperscalers. And our third business unit, which is the most relevant for this discussion and probably arguably the most exciting one at this moment, is our data engineering and production AI business unit. Data is something that is extremely valuable, as you'll keep hearing from me later in this discussion today. This is a business unit that really is the precipice or the starting point of our journey on data and AI as a whole. And this is it's a fairly new business unit, which is a couple of years old, but it's obviously the fastest growing one. And given the industry trends today, this is the one that we are generally most excited about. From an industry point of view, we've traditionally been doing really well in financial services, and we continue to do so. So a lot of the messaging that you'll see from me, from the company, from other folks will be very heavy FinServ focus for the next year onwards. But we have clients in almost every industry today. Automotive, aviation, energy, high tech, telecom, pharma, you name it. But for the purpose of this discussion today, we're going to be focusing on financial services and how AI solutions impact those. Nicole, any thoughts on that? Should we move on to the next slide? Perfect. So as I mentioned about our three business units, modern application engineering, managed cloud and security solutions, and data engineering, we at Celestial really believe that all our clients and all of their significant projects live at the intersection of all three of these business units. And which is why we've tried to depict that as our clients being the center point of focus where all of these business units intersect. And so to give you an example, if you look at a large-scale digital transformation project, that will involve first the data. What data are you using to build on top of your digital transformation efforts? That will involve data engineering, that might involve data processing, cleaning, etc. Next, you're going to be building something that's probably going to be residing on a cloud somewhere, or even if it's not residing on a cloud, if it's an on-prem installation, there's going to be some CI/CD automation work that'll be required. There'll be some pipelining work that'll be required. And so that's where our managed cloud and security solution would probably come in. And then the third bit is, once you've actually figured out what you're going to build, somebody has to use it, right? So the end users actually who have to use it, the content has to be usable, it has to be actionable, it has to be visualized for them. So as you can see, these kind of projects actually challenge our entire strength as an organization, right? From a complete skill set perspective. And that's why we believe that all of our clients that are doing these significant projects, and especially in today's context when we're talking about building data and AI solutions, specifically for financial services, I firmly believe that all of these solutions are living at this intersection and will challenge the usage of all of these skills for it to be deemed successful. Nicole, maybe I can throw it back to you for, you want to go to the last slide, maybe? The technology trends?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rahul. So I think as we start to get into our discussion, specifically about AI in financial services, just want to look at data and AI in relation to some of the new technologies and trends that we've seen over the past 15 years. There's certainly been some very some major disruptors in terms of the industry. So if we look at having blockchain and cryptocurrency enter cybersecurity and data privacy becoming more and more important, open banking APIs, big data analytics, cloud-based solutions. So these are all have been major disruptors in terms of the industry. And so I guess I would ask you, Rahul, like if you're looking at how data and AI sort of fits in, or sort of what are some of those commonalities that we're seeing amongst all of these, new technologies. So what's kind of your thoughts on that and where data and AI fits in there?
Yeah, good question. So I would say it seems like the financial services industry always seems to have these sort of technology trends. These disrupting technologies happen like fairly quickly, right? Because blockchain and crypto is pretty new. Cybersecurity was pretty hot maybe 2 years ago. And so the question I would ask everybody, and this is what I ask myself, is, hey, why does this keep happening? Why do we necessarily keep hearing about financial services all the time? And my best assumption or best guess is that it's because of all the data that they're sitting on, right? So whenever there's large amounts of data that organizations have, and of course, I'm talking about larger enterprises, bigger companies that have been around for a decent amount of time so that they can actually hold that data. Generally, there is intervention involved in trying to extract value out of that data. And if you look at it from that lens, today is actually no different than what big data analytics was maybe 15 years ago, right? It's kind of on the same thing. Of course, AI has better capability and it can be generative and all that good stuff. But the basis of why somebody wanted to deploy a big analytics solution 15 years ago is pretty much the same as why somebody wants to deploy an AI solution today in a financial service company, right? So I would probably say the commonality of all this is that financial services company tend to sit on a lot of data that's unstructured, data that's unformatted in different formats. And that is the reason why you keep seeing this kind of innovation happening in the industry. Not to say other industries do not innovate. I would say other industries where like aviation or pharmaceutical, where there is lots of data similar to financial services, they would probably be trying to lead these similar innovations in my opinion.
Great. Thanks, Rahul. So I think as we just get into a little bit of our fireside chat aspect of the webinar, just really, wanted to ask a couple questions, just really around, the impact of data and AI on financial services. And I think we've touched on this a bit, but really just to dig into, why financial services in particular, can really benefit from implementation of data and AI solutions.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like I said, I think every industry can probably benefit from data and AI solutions. But for financial services specifically, it's the point that I was alluding to earlier. The first point is data abundance, right? They deal with a lot of vast amounts of data. The data comes from various sources. The data is stored in various places. The data comes in various formats. So that's what the first most important point is. They just have a lot of different kinds of data sitting there, and they need to make sense of it, right? The second thing is, if you look at the financial markets in general, the financial markets tend to be highly complex, right? By nature. So they're fast moving, they're constantly evolving. So you need some sort of predictability, you need some sort of reliability, some sort of intelligence built in to understand the market, to be able to predict what's going to happen next, right? So AI solutions in those kind of markets tend to shine more, in my opinion. If an industry is very stagnant, it's very static, it's the value that an AI solution brings is maybe not so much. But in an industry like financial services, where there's a lot of unpredictability by nature, by the way markets are constructed, by the way stock prices go up, by the way valuations go up and down, I think the AI solutions do help the most in these type of situations. So the complexity of the financial markets would be my number 2 reason. The third thing I would say is risk management, right? Like risk management is a critical aspect of the financial services industry. Firms need to assess different types of risk, mitigate various types of risk, credit risk, market risk, operational risk. And these AI solutions can enhance that risk management by providing better risk assessment, detecting anomalies, potential fraud perhaps, and identifying these risks in real time, right? So I would probably say those would be there are many more reasons why people could want to be motivated to implement AI solutions in FinServ. But for me, data abundance, complexity of the financial markets by nature, and mitigating risk or risk management would be the top three that I would say.
Great. And actually, just to, kind of segue from talking about, risk management to
Yeah.
when we're actually looking at implementation of the, solutions, data and AI solutions, what would be some of the, key concerns and considerations that, financial services firms would have, and like how can they avoid risk associated with implementing these types of solutions?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing, I mean, my very first suggestion to all the folks on this call today and whoever's going to see this later is it's very easy to rush into things, especially given the current craze about AI and everything. Um, so I would probably say slow down to speed up first and maybe do a little bit more research before jumping into something. But especially when you're at a point when you're actually ready to implement something, the most important principle for any AI solution is what goes in comes out. And what I mean by that is the most important point to focus on is data quality and data bias, right? So there is a concept in this industry where we talk about garbage in, garbage out. The data that goes into whatever models or any solution that you're trying to build is literally step one of whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So if that step one is not clean, it's not processed properly, it's not validated, anything that you do after can have serious consequences because you can't really rely on the information that's coming out. So data quality and ensuring that that data is non-biased or bias-free is super important. That would be my number one most important point. Number two, I would say financial services industry is very highly regulated, right? This is something that is a very hot topic in the AI world today, regulatory compliance. Financial services need to be compliant with many different types of compliances, whether it's GDPR, CCPA. Some industries have industry specific like KYC, anti-money laundering, all those things are there. So that you need to make sure that whatever you're implementing is compliant to that, because if you fall out of compliance for whatever reason, it could lead to a lot of bad things happening. So number two would be regulatory compliance. And the third thing is security and privacy, right? So AI implementations in financial services, they introduce a lot of new security and privacy risks, right? They introduce a lot of opportunities for data breaches, unauthorized access, misuse of sensitive information. All of these things are magnified, if you will, when you're playing around with a lot of data. So I think keeping those 3 points in check is very important. Data quality, regulatory compliance, and making sure you're taking into account security and privacy whenever you're implementing these solutions. So I would probably say these are like the top 3 risks or areas that should be highly looked at before going and implementing something.
Okay, that's actually a great way to take us to kind of our next discussion, which is really about the implementation and deploying an AI solution. So I think one of the areas that perhaps can be overlooked when we're talking about AI deployment is the user experience piece. So
Mhm.
just wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about why user experience is such an important part of an AI implementation?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question, and I would say this is not even necessarily related to AI at all. I would say user coming from a very product engineering background, I'm obviously quite biased with this statement, but um, user experience is extremely important in any application or any solution, simply because if you think about why you are building something, it's generally because you want somebody to use it, right? Whether it's an internal stakeholder or an external stakeholder or an end user, the main goal of building an application, a product, a solution is generally to get people to use it, right? So user experience is extremely important in any sort of solution, I would say. And there are a couple of reasons why it's good to think about these things before you go and jump in and start building everything. The first thing is, you want your users to be satisfied, right? So customer satisfaction is really important, right? The user experience directly impacts customer satisfaction. If a lot of these AI applications are difficult to use or not intuitive or fail to meet user expectations, it leads to a lot of frustration and dissatisfaction amongst the users, right? And guess what will that happen? It leads me to my next point is it affects adoption and engagement, right? So if you have a bad user experience, you start with this user that's not really satisfied with how things are going. And guess what will happen then? They're not gonna be so willing to adopt the solution. They're not gonna be wanting it to use it 5 times a day like you intended it to. And that's gonna have more trickle down effects in terms of engagement, right? So those things are really important to think of, right? Whereas user experiences or user interfaces that are user friendly, intuitive, easy to use tend to encourage the users to use them uh, in a more robust way, right? Which is again going back to our main point. That's the main reason we're building these solutions. Is somebody somewhere in some team is going to be using them, hopefully a lot, because you're probably going to be spending a lot of time, money, and resources building these things. So you probably want somebody to actually use it, and that thinking about user experience is important. So adoption and engagement was my second point. The third point would be again tied in to adoption and engagement would be efficiency and productivity, right? If you look back from the start of the cycle, if a product has a bad user experience, the user is not satisfied. If the user is not satisfied, they're less likely to adopt and use the product well. If they're not using the product or solution that you're implementing, guess what? The original efficiency and productivity you hope to achieve by implementing this solution gets compromised. So as you can see, it's sort of a related trickle down effect that sort of starts really at the beginning of really good intuitive user experience. And one of the things that we normally do with a lot of our clients is we engage in a lot of interactive user experience whiteboarding sessions or design sessions so that we can build some mock user experiences prior to actually going out and building something. That way we can get real world feedback on what we're doing if it makes sense, and continue to go improve from there. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, based on the experience you've had working with, with clients in financial services firms, can you maybe share some examples of where, you felt like it would really, the user experience or that great user experience really made the difference for the firm?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the people that we have worked with. I mean, if you look at it, everybody on the call today, right? Generally, financial services, I don't know if we noticed it or not, but financial services companies in general put a lot of emphasis on good user experience, right? And I'll give you a couple examples. Mobile banking apps. We all use them every single day, regularly, right? They invest heavily in terms of user experience. So all of us, I'm sure, use our banking apps regularly. Robo advisors, right? So many of these companies have come up for investment algorithms that allow people to invest their money much quicker. Those are really popular. Chatbots and virtual assistants, right? So, and many financial firms have these set up to give a better user experience to their clients. Personal financial management tools that people use to track their expenses, etc. All of those things, that a lot of them we use regularly. Digital wallets and payment solutions, things like Apple Pay, Google Pay that we use on a day-to-day basis. How much easier it is for us to use those things, and that translates to how much we use them, right? And even things such as like automated mortgage and loan applications when we're working with different financial services firms for our own personal things. If you think about it, on a regular basis, we in our own personal lives use many of these financial services applications, and they generally tend to have a higher standard of user experience than other industries. And that's primarily because it is very important, and they need to drive engagement, and they truly understand that customer satisfaction, adoption, engagement, and all these things are very, very important.
Great. So I think just as we kind of move on to our next part of the discussion, I think we're, always kind of looking at what's next. What's kind of the next thing that's going to be coming up. And so just wanted to get your thoughts in terms of what you are seeing in terms of emerging needs within within the financial services sector, from a technology perspective.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good question, and I'm sure if you ask 10 people, they will probably give you 10 different opinions on it. So what we're gonna get is my opinion. So please bear with me. My personal outlook on needs is that I like to tie it with trends. So if I go back and see what is the emerging trend right now, I think all of us can agree that the emerging trend is generative AI, artificial intelligence, and how we can apply it, in FinServ or any other industry to make our lives simpler and extract tons and tons of value, right? That's a general high level trend. Would you agree, Nicole? That is currently what we're seeing?
Yes.
Awesome. So tied to that larger trend, I would say there are a couple needs that are going to come out as side effects, if you will. Because people are so excited about implementing AI solutions and extracting a lot of value out of whatever data they currently have, I think the first need is they need to enhance cybersecurity, right? As I hinted earlier, implementing a lot of these new types of solutions where you're dealing with data and oftentimes sensitive data opens you up to data breaches, security risk, unauthorized access of data, etc. So the first need that's going to pop up is going to be you need to enhance your cybersecurity, or you need to relook at what your cybersecurity policies look like, because what you're trying to do now is different than what we were trying to do yesterday. The second thing I would say would be on data privacy and compliance, right? So as compliance becomes more of an issue, as people again are trying to extract more value out of their data, they need to make sure whatever solutions that they're implementing remain compliant. So I would say these would be the two biggest needs that are coming up, in my opinion. Cybersecurity needs to be beefed up, and of course data privacy laws, compliance regulations need to be relooked at it, and probably need to be revised. So my hunch is that, and I think we'll see in time whether this prediction comes true or not, is I believe that cybersecurity teams, where companies are implementing a lot of AI solutions, their security teams are going to double. I believe data governance teams are going to grow. Where they're not present, they will start being there. Where they are present, they will increase in size, and you will also see compliance teams also increase. And with all this excitement that is happening, and all these people are trying to, do different and interesting things with data, and implement all kinds of different solutions, we will also unfortunately see more security breaches. We will also see more cybersecurity incidents. And so those are also in a way needed to make sure that everybody understands that, we need to, just because we're doing something different today, doesn't mean that we should, not think about cybersecurity or data privacy compliance and governance and those kind of things. So I hope that that makes sense. Tying the overall overarching trend of our industry today with what is going to be a need, what is already a need in my opinion, but probably will be magnified in the next coming weeks or months.
Okay, well, great. And I feel like we couldn't have a conversation about AI without asking, quote unquote, the big question. And I think it's something that comes up in any discussion about AI. And so when we're talking specifically about FinServ, just thinking how, can financial services organizations ensure the ethical use of AI insights in driving innovation and doing that while maintaining customer trust and regulatory compliance. So thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, that is a mouthful. That is a big question, and I don't want to say a controversial one, but it is definitely a very interesting question, and I know it's top of mind for most people. So let me see if I can do my best attempt to answer this for you. I think ethics in AI is something that is fairly new and not very well understood at this moment by most people. So that's something that people will continue to learn. The industry will continue to learn over the next coming months. There are a few things that I can suggest that people should be thinking about, right? The first thing is we should think about establishing ethical guidelines on how we want to deploy AI solutions within our company. These guidelines should outline expectations for behavior, principles such as fairness, transparency, accountability, respect for privacy, those things of that nature. So if you don't set your guidelines, you don't really know what is ethical or not ethical. So I would say that needs to be a step one. Step two, and I'll touch on this a little slightly later after this as well, is most organizations already have, or if they don't, they should really be considering creating an ethics review board or a committee, right? And think of this as very much like a student union or a student body or a committee within an organization or a group. And this committee basically needs to implement and monitor the ethical use of AI within an organization. This committee should include members from various teams, whether it's business, legal, compliance, risk, data scientists. The technical team obviously needs to be involved, business operations. And I think jointly as a committee, or as a board, they should make holistic decisions to what applies to them, what applies to their organization, and what applies to their industry. Okay, so the second thing it would be is creating a board or a committee. The third aspect I would say is conduct impact assessments, right? And this is something that actually we can provide resources to. There are a lot of good organizations there that have very good guidelines on how you can conduct an ethical impact assessment within your organizations for any of the AI projects that you're trying to deploy. There are some links that we can share for UNESCO, World Economic Forum. And these assessments will give you a good snapshot of where you actually are in your ethical AI journey, if you will, right? The fourth portion of it is data governance and privacy, and I've mentioned data governance, a couple times before today, but you should, for those that are not familiar with what data governance is, the simplest way to think about data governance is who, what, when, where gets touches the data and does things to the data, right? That becomes very, very important because as a lot of that data might be sensitive, it might have personal information. You got to make sure that your access is compliant with certain regulations. That is all what data governance means, is basically enabling the correct use, the correct access of that data at the correct times to the correct people, right? So I would say those four things are extremely important to drive ethical use of AI insights, of AI solutions. Um, that's something that people need to be thinking of. It's generally an afterthought, to be honest. But I think things are changing going forward. So just maybe to recap, I would say the first thing is establish your guidelines, your ethical guidelines, where you stand as a company, as an organization. Number two, get your group going, get a committee, get a review board put in place, make sure there's multiple stakeholders from different teams. Don't just use one team as a committee, obviously. Third is use resources to conduct impact assessments, see where you truly stand today. And fourth is really think about data governance and privacy before you can, go and even start implementing these solutions. And I think the overall message for all this is, a lot of this is, hey, I know there's a lot of excitement to get things going and extract that value, but this discussion is more to say, not to pump the brakes on the excitement, but more to say like, hey, let's do a little bit more thoughtful research, and let's put a bit more thought into what kind of solutions we're going to be implementing before we just go and try to tinker around with something. So I hope that makes sense. I know this is another space. You guys might have heard the term ethical AI thrown out before, but I know this is a space that's very up and coming in the industry, in terms of technologies, in terms of different organizations focusing on these kind of areas. This is a space that I assume will grow as well in the next coming months and years.
Great. And actually, just our last slide here before we get into the Q&A is really just providing some resources here that can be helpful as you're looking to implement AI solutions into your firm. So I'm going to drop those in the chat so that you can access those easily. And I think at this point we will move into the Q&A. And we did have a couple of questions that had been submitted ahead of time. I'm going to just check in, see too if we have any questions that have been added today through the Q&A. If you have a question, please feel free to add it in there. Yeah, so I think just our first question we had was, can you provide an example or some, insights in terms of, work that you've done with clients in the financial service industry, and maybe some of the challenges that you've helped them through. So just speaking to the clients that we've been working with in the space, and just some of the insights you can share from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can talk about one of our existing clients. I'm not allowed to name them publicly, but I can say that they're a Fortune 500 financial services firm owned by a conglomerate of banks, actually based out of New York. So they wanted to work with us on a project, which was, I would say a digital transformation project. And again, the precipice for this project was they had a lot of different types of data stored in different types of warehouses, right? So they're a big AWS Redshift user, and they essentially had various data in different silos, different formats. And what they wanted us to do is the project was sort of named OneSource. And the idea behind OneSource was that they wanted to create one single source of truth for all the data and analytics that resides in the company. So what we ended up doing was we took all of that unstructured data from in all different ways. We brought it together, cleaned it all up, processed it, validated it, put it created a mechanism that we can do that repetitively, and created one single repository for that. And then afterwards, what we did was we built an application, an enterprise application that resided on a cloud on an AWS server. And essentially, it was, a very robust dashboard that displayed a lot of different types of analytics that they were actually looking for. So this is going back to my initial slide of the Venn diagram, where I feel all our three business units intersect, and a lot of clients live in the middle of that intersection. This project was a perfect example of that intersection, where it involved dealing with large amounts of data, using data engineering to clean up all the data, right? Deploying it on an AWS cloud, and then using our modern application engineering to create a really nice modern enterprise application, which is robust in terms of data and visualization. So that was a very interesting and fun project that we did for them. And yeah, then they're in the financial services company. Yeah, they're a financial service company. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. And just maybe the second question that we had submitted is really around, the fact there's a lot of big players in the AI space. It's very, very hot. Everyone is talking about it. So, there's definitely more jumping in at any given time. And so, just wondering, what might be some of the key questions when it comes to vetting a potential AI vendor. Like what are some of the things to really try and target, I guess, the type of vendor that's going to be a good fit for implementation.
Yeah, I mean, so many considerations, to be honest, but I think it really has to come down to your use case. It also has to come down to, obviously, budget of how much money you have to spend on these type of activities. But if you could go back to the previous slide, I want to talk about one of our partners. If you look at the second link, Dataiku is actually one of our partners, and they provide an all-encompassing, holistic solution for. They call it a data science studio. So essentially, what it allows people to do, it allows data engineers, data scientists, and business analysts to all live and collaborate in one platform, right? And once you have a single place for everybody to collaborate, what that allows you to do, which is very important, it allows you to make all those interactions secure, and it allows you to enforce data governance and compliance laws, which are really important, right? So this is a company that we've partnered with, maybe almost 6-8 months ago, and Celestial alongside Dataiku are bringing our services in conjunction with their product and creating these holistic solutions, especially for the financial services industry. So I would say there's a lot of choice out there in terms of what solutions people can use, whether you're looking for pointed solutions that are solving one problem, or maybe you're a large enterprise that's looking for a more holistic solution like a Dataiku, where many of your team members can live and breathe in the same platform, and that'll be completely secure, and that'll be completely compliant, and data will be governed to whatever regulatory standards that you might want to achieve. So I would say I kind of answered your question without answering your question, perhaps, but it really depends on what you're trying to do as an organization. But there are a lot of different different solutions out there to choose.
Okay, great. And I just checked the chat and the Q&A, and it doesn't look like we have any live questions here. So I think if last call for questions. If not, we can wrap up unless you had any final thoughts there, Rahul. We can
Yeah, so I mean, maybe just some parting words. So firstly, I just want to thank everybody for their time today. I really appreciate for those that dialed in live. So I do appreciate the turnout, honestly. The one thing that I would say is my takeaway or my go do for everybody on this call would be is if you're probably going to be in two places in your industry, right? Either you're thinking of implementing AI solutions or you already are on the road of doing those, right? Regardless of which bucket you fall into, you should really think about going out and taking initiative to create an AI, call it AI ethics committee or review board or group. And it doesn't matter what role you are in. An AI ethics committee or board has to span across different departments. So I think if you can take that in, if you're going to take anything away from this discussion, is maybe take that only thing is the first thing you should be looking at is I need to go and create my own review board or committee, or my company should have one. And should you need more information on how the committee is formed, etc., we've given some resources here, which I think are good steps. The World Economic Forum 12-step guide I think is really good. The UNESCO one is also very helpful. The Data IQ blog is also, I think, a good resource. But that's a very, very good, powerful first step that you can take. And I can definitely say that if your management or your organization sees you take those steps, I am sure most people will be very, very impressed with the type of forward-thinking attitude that you're able to probably show. So that would be my one takeaway for you guys is think about your AI ethics review board or committee and be proactive and take the ownership of starting that for yourself. That would be my only advice for this time.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think I've just checked and I think we've got through all of our questions today. And so just wanted to thank everyone again for joining us. And I will just launch one final poll here. And this is a poll that is not a public poll. It will just be seen by Rahul and myself, and it's really just ask if you are interested in learning more, about how to implement AI within your firm. If you respond yes, then we can reach out to you. And again, this is just will come to Rahul and myself. So I'll just launch that now. And if you just wanted to respond, then that is the final part of our webinar today. So
Yep.
we'll just give a minute there for people to respond. But again, thanks everyone for taking the time from your day to learn more about data and AI and financial services. And it was great talking with you, Rahul, as always.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and thanks for setting this up, Nicole. You guys will see more from us in the future. I'm sure the next few sessions will be more technical in nature. People a lot smarter than me will be talking. So we do look forward to continuously bringing you this information. So thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.